Some theorists fancifully transform ominous black holes and hypothetical wormholes into gallant and heroic knights who can transport their visitors through time, thereby reversing the second law of thermodynamics and rescuing them from any impending judgment. First, wormholes are strictly theoretical with no evidence whatsoever of their existence. Secondly, the term black hole is a misnomer. They are likely solid balls of matter, not holes. Per one theory, matter sucked towards a black hole stays there forever. Surrounding matter forms an accretion disk from which particles are expelled. Another theory is that black holes eventually disintegrate, releasing their acquired mass. I theorize that black holes do not exist per se, rather they are what I call them quark stars. Regardless, time travel is counter-scientific, it will never happen. Other theories considered impossible have been vindicated because nobody could see the future. But time travel lacks the excuse that it has not been discovered yet. Time travelers would have numerous chances to appear to us in any previous generation. Since they have not, we know they will not. In fact, time travel would involve several logical fallacies. Some philosophers, including me, understand that technically speaking, time does not exist any more than measurements of weight or distance exist. Time is simply the gauging of changes in events. So I call myself an achronicist, a word that I coined. That's due to Chronos being the personification of time in Greek mythology, the A being denial of such, as atheists deny any greater deity. Foolishly enough. Such a word does not presently exist in the English language, but should, since achronism is certainly an important philosophical position. And nature, being retrogressive, has no examples whatsoever of increasing complexity. Nature, so-called evolving multi-patterned snowflakes, is misunderstood. Running water has billions of water molecules constantly positioning and repositioning themselves, potentially harboring every possible geometric crystalline shape extant. Contrarily, snowflakes are static, locked into only one crystalline shape, therefore far less complex. If we could individually color dye water molecules and have them magnified and run in slow motion, the resultant dynamics would be the king of all kaleidoscopes. Thermodynamics are universal laws. Biodiversity. Far more species exist than are necessary for survival in particular circumstances. There are hundreds of types of reptiles, insects, and mammals. Sea creatures are even more diverse. Besides fish of every color and pattern, there are swordfish, flying fish, and sailfish. There are wide varieties of starfish and mollusks. There are tiger sharks, hammerheads, dolphins, whales, seahorses, pipefish, sea cucumbers, sea snakes, eels, stingrays, sand dollars, coral, octopi, squid, lobsters, jellyfish, etc. There are over 10,000 species of birds. According to survival of the fittest animals would have bodily configurations with a survival advantage over other configurations, thereby rendering other configurations obsolete. An atheist retorted, per biodiversity, conditions are constantly changing, leading to far more species than needed to fit available niches. In the time frame that one species has a competitive edge, conditions can change and remove its advantage, preventing its driving other species into extinction, end quote. This so-called solution is extremely deceptive. Evolutionists insist that evolutionary processes are phlegmatic, developing over eons, and often insist that conditions such as the Ice Age lasted eons. But if conditions changed like a spinning roulette wheel, life forms would never have opportunity to evolve towards current conditions. That they would be perpetually readjusting, thereby getting nowhere. That atheist that I spoke with created a double bind where both points completely contradict each other. So either neo-Darwinian foundation is dead wrong, or that guy was dead wrong about conditions constantly changing. Either way, nature mirrors architectural design, calling for an architect who purposely created structural variety, transitional forms, and developmental stages. There's a colossal gap between non-living matter and the so-called simplest life forms. Single-celled organisms have thousands of moving parts. Non-living matter making such a gigantic leap would be like a fancy pocket watch having completely formed from molten lava. In response, transitional forms are said to exist, such as compounds which make up life's basic building blocks and alleged prototypes or components of life's simplest forms. Yet these were formed in intelligently designed laboratories. Ipso facto, this attempt to refute intelligent design is invalidated. For a complete exegesis, read Darwin's Black Box. Besides, no intermediate creature required as a stepping stone between one major species and another is living anywhere on Earth or is known from recorded history. So-called lungfish, genus Lepidosiren and Protopterus, often cited as candidates for an intermediate form, cannot exist as deep-sea creatures having to constantly surface to breathe. On land, they do little more than hibernate. They're not an advancement on anything. Granted, Queensland so-called lungfish, Neoceratodus forsteri, need not surface unless the water is deoxygenated. Many have a modified swim bladder to breathe air. But since they cannot do without water as other lungfish can, and cannot swim as fast as other fish, their downsides disqualify them too. Also, plants don't have transitional forms. Algae is often cited as an intermediary candidate, but algae has fully developed methods of photosynthesis and reproduction. Most species of algae also have a great advantage over trees, being able to thrive on the surface of water, tolerating higher temperatures than any other organism, and enduring extreme dryness and light intensity. Algae also comes in a variety of colors. Don't be fooled by algae's appearance. It is a fully developed life form. Besides, the fossil record is absent of true transitional forms. My criteria for a transitional form is simple. A life form with every characteristic of an existing life form, plus partially developed characteristics of another with no downside. For example, every step in completing a house, its evolution, is an unequivocal improvement from its former state. There are no downsides. Even being down in a pit is better than nothing. This could help discourage predators and avoid certain angles of wind and rain. But nothing in nature betters anything else without a deleterious condition. For example, bats as flying rodents that plow over mites but can barely see or scurry on the ground. Creatures with legs have benefit over snakes, but lose flexibility, sense of vibrations, and heat radar. A notable challenge to my transitional form criteria was, I quote, the pectoral muscles of Archaeopteryx were more developed than Eoraptors, so this is supposedly the first dinosaurs, but less developed than that of modern birds, dinosaurs into birds' theory. But Archaeopteryx would have had a distinct advantage on land via sharp teeth, hyper-extensible second toes, or so-called killing claws, and other factors. Eoraptors were altogether bipedal land animals, greater advantage still. So do thorough research before wasting more time with false claims. Stay tuned for part 3.